Pledge allegiance.
Sure.
Pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
So Leslie, they have you first on the agenda. The
Okay.
disaster preparedness plan.
Yep, let me just pull it up. You saw that email that I sent, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
And so Chrissy and Joe and I and Margaret met with our contact from Cornell, who, as I mentioned in my email, they're working with municipalities. It's an initiative through the DEC and the Hudson River Estuary Program. It's a free service. This is kind of like the NRI was different. We had to apply for that, but it's a really terrific resource for us. And what they're doing is they're taking our current, they'll take the current plan from towns and put it in kind of a digestible and readable format. Actually, Chrissy, you wouldn't have your write-up from them, would you?
From the meeting?
Yeah, it's okay if you don't, but maybe on a break or something, or we can just show the board what I should have thought of that sooner. So sorry to spring that on you, but just to show them what it's looking like. And it's all of the copy that would be on our website. So there's a welcome page. It talks about community notification systems, resources, and road closures, different ways that we get the food and water safety, cooling center. So it's kind of a general overview. Electric, gas outages, and water. So they're providing us with all of this text. They drafted all of the copy. It would be just a link on our website, but it would have all of our town's information. So if someone can go on our website and find it. One of the things that we need to sort out, and Chrissy and Joe and I discussed tasking Erin with it when she gets back on Monday because she's so tech savvy. There's a way that right now our residents can sign up for county notifications, and they can get email notifications from the town they can opt in about, when we're having meetings and public hearings and all that stuff. But this would be for them to be able to opt in by text to know about road closures, mostly road closures, but it could be like, notifications about any other safety issue. God forbid there was ever an active shooter or anything like that. It would go through that notification system. So Cornell was explaining that some towns in Columbia County or do it right through the county provides a link to the town with how to do it. So I'm not tech savvy, but I just thought Erin could look into the ways that other surrounding towns have handled their notification systems and see if she can make a recommendation to the board about the best way for us to do that. So that's one piece of the puzzle. The other piece is that our emergency assistance and shelters, and then our warming and cooling centers. Right now, what am I thinking of? What's the name of the building behind the Thorn building? That is designated for emergency assistant shelter. And as Joe pointed out, and I don't know if Joe is there, if he can speak to that. That is not a very large area. And I think somebody pointed out by email that it might not even be accessible now with a Thorn Center construction. So we need to identify a place. This would be like for a mass community emergency, like, a Hurricane Helene kind of a thing or a Hurricane Sandy kind of a thing. And it makes good sense because of it's high, it's on a hill, so it's not sort of prone to flooding. And most importantly, it's got a lot of space.
I think we're going towards the high school now.
Yeah.
Sorry, Joe?
We're going to the high school.
Yeah, we're talking about the high school for the emergency assistance, but then for warming and cooling center, so for extreme cold or extreme heat, when generators go out and things like that, so just something that affects a few homes or several residents, we think that the firehouse would be a logical option there because it's open 24/7. It, it has heating and cooling, it has a generator, and, we wouldn't have the same access issues as the school would be like, it says, like a, Hurricane Katrina kind of like a catastrophic place where it says here, emergency shelters, they facilitate coordination. So it'd be the place where all of the, government officials meet, where the county meets to provide distribution of food and water and medical assistance, all that stuff. It's for a mass emergency, whereas the warming and cooling centers are more, my generator's been out for 3 days because of a storm and I'm freezing cold and I want to be able to charge my phone and take a hot shower kind of a thing. But in order to do that, we would need to, and it says in here, by the way, I should mention just from the draft that Cornell provided, that firehouses are often the designated locations for warming and cooling centers in towns. They are most of the towns in Columbia County. So my thinking was that maybe Gary, I don't know, perhaps as you as supervisor would be a logical person, I don't know, to reach out, and I'll send you all this information, but I wanted to just mention it so we could all discuss it and get feedback and see what you all think, obviously, before we take any steps, but that maybe the superintendent of schools we could talk to about the emergency assistance piece and what that would entail, and then perhaps talking to the fire chief about the warming and cooling center. Now, the only thing I haven't done yet, because I want to talk to you all first, is to just talk to Tim Colopy about all of this and let him know that we're doing that. The village updated their contacts on our emergency preparedness plan a few years ago. We haven't touched the plan since 2010. They did it maybe in, I don't know, Joe, you mentioned maybe 2021, 3 years ago, something like that.
I believe it was 2020.
2020.
Okay, 2020. So, Mike Herzog, was the lead on that. I'm happy to reach out to him. Just we do have all the stuff that they did. So my other thought was just to have Aaron Fox go through all the contact lists and see, just see, make sure that it's current, just so that we have current information in our plan. But broadly, someone needs to take on the task of going through each of these, besides the cooling centers and the emergency things. I just feel like we really should have that, make sure that we have that, God forbid something were to happen. The other stuff is less urgent in my assessment. And, you could all talk through, just look through it and see what's current and what's not. And if Aaron can help with the admin stuff of looking at, making sure the phone numbers and the contact names are all up to date. Joe looked at it, did a cursory look at it and said, this person's dead, this person's dead. I mean, there's a lot of, we need to update the contacts.
Do we know if the village has
Term I used.
the school and the firehouse designated in their plan?
No, so Bob, their plan is our plan. Like I guess when you all
Okay.
did the plan,
Okay.
it's coordinated. So that's all, we would be the one to, like, I'd talk to Tim. Once I talked to you first, then I was going to we could loop in Tim about what we're
Yeah.
doing, get his feedback on so that we're both, in lockstep when we go to talk to the school or the fire department about having it be the designated place. But what the village did do is, for their contacts within their different emergency designated people, like staff and things, they went through and updated that 3 years ago. We haven't updated it recently. And so, part of it, as we talked through it, and as Cornell said, and they said, by the way, to let us know that this is like very common for towns to need to update this. And my thinking is that once everything's updated, then, once a year, it could be someone in the office, or someone could just be like, okay, it's almost like doing your annual audit. We're just going to look at that contact list and make sure that those contacts are still relevant, right? The people are still in those positions or whatever. And then to make sure that everybody knows that they're the designated person. Do you know what I mean? That maybe there's a training or some kind of, once it's finished, you all get together and kind of say, does everybody know when there's an emergency? Because I didn't know that in an emergency, the whole the town board needs to, in a catastrophic emergency, we would be going to the designated location along with county government. And so, just getting people kind of onboarded with whatever the new plan is. But in the short term, I've just mentioned a lot of different things. I think we should talk about the emergency location, which would, as we discussed, we think should be the high school, and then the warming and cooling centers being the firehouse. And then, if that all sounds like a good idea to you, and maybe somebody on the board wants to join me in that conversation with Tim, because, this is a more ongoing project that someone needs to kind of be assigned, I think, this, going through the whole plan.
Yeah, I'll be glad to help with that. And I just told Gary, I'd be glad to contact the fire department and trying to work that out. And if Gary could get a hold of the high school superintendent.
That would be great. That'd be
They'll
awesome.
just have to figure out who on all ends be the contact people. That's all.
Can I make a suggestion? Before we start cherry picking certain things, that it gets reviewed in its entirety. Because it
Right.
is, the actual location is the firehouse for headquarters, as it says. Also, it says that this plan by resolution is supposed to be made current every year by the town and village boards. But after reading it, it is, it's not only not accurate and not current, but some of it is, it's more what you're supposed to do than how to do it or who's going to do it. Just a suggestion.
Yep.
So
Yeah, I agree with everything Joe just said. I think the only thing is that with these questions of we only have Cornell for a certain period of time I forget what her deadline is. I think it's November. And so the suggestion from her was to,
No, I think
if those places are not where we want it, and that's a big, issue. I mean, not a big issue, but a big concern, right? That we want to make sure that people know where to go. Should there be, that
Right.
the Cornell's putting that information on the website, we can easily, change that in the draft of the document in the binder. But I think that until and when, like, I agree with Joe completely that I think it should be a priority to try to go through that like this fall. And I really don't think it's a lot more than just identifying the areas that need to be updated. Erin can do all the housekeeping stuff for everybody, like of just looking at different contact lists and getting numbers and all that stuff. That sort of, but looking through and making the decision about where you want to have some of these, what's up to date, what's not. And then, as Joe said, not just deciding what needs to happen, but letting the people that know that they're accountable to be there. And also, like, is there a communication system that they need to be, is everyone on a text chain? You know what I mean? How is everybody communicating? I think is the other piece of the puzzle on the disaster preparedness part. So anyway, my recommendation would be to just in the short term for us to just try to get some clarity on those two pieces. And then, Gary, you give some thought to who on the board or who's taking my place on the board would be interested in kind of immediately going through it and figuring out what we need to do to update it.
Okay.
No,
I think we'll
absolutely.
get it done.
Yep, we'll do it. We'll get it done.
That's all I got. And I can send you Chrissy, if you have that document from them,
Yes.
maybe you, if you don't mind, not right now or whenever, but maybe making a copy for the full board and everybody and we can put it in their mailbox. I should have thought of that and they can just see what we're talking about. And then I can just send some notes on the stuff that needs to be, that is, pretty pressing, I think.
Yeah, I'll do that for sure.
Yeah, I'd like to read it because
Yep, we should, yeah, everybody should.
after what you just said, you know.
This isn't ours, this is just a draft of what it should look like.
Okay.
Individual copies.
Okay, so,
All right, we'll get it done.
Happy to help if there's anything you want me to do.
yeah, I just need to know who's the contact person up at the high school.
It's, the superintendent's name is like on the tip of my tongue, but I have to look it up.
Yeah, in the phone.
Yeah, I'll get a hold of the chief.
Chrissy,
Yes,
on the budget or on the agenda tonight, we have enter into executive session to discuss personal matters.
yes.
Did somebody bring up the need for personal matters? Or was that from the previous board meeting, that's just budget meeting?
No, I put it on there just so, because you can't just go into an executive session, you have to give a little description.
I know, why are we going into executive session?
Because I didn't know if I was under the assumption that
Are we
talk
talking about salaries? tonight?
about Joe.
No,
Oh, I thought we
Joe's
were.
just reviewing his department.
Oh,
Salaries was on the last thing, was the
I
last
thought we
meeting.
were doing highway salaries and Danielle's salaries tonight. I'm sorry.
No, we discussed those at the last meeting, but what we're doing is reviewing the budgets
Oh,
of
I
the
thought we were bringing them
the
back in and
committees.
discussing what we discussed with them. So that was my.
We can go to executive session at the end of
Yeah,
talking to the
so
various
that was
departments
my
and then
misunderstanding.
make a final
Yeah.
decision, because there were some questions on the PTO has to be a resolution and that
Yeah,
kind of
so that
thing.
was my
So
misunderstanding.
let's do that at the end after we talk to both departments.
Mhm.
So
So
this is
then I'm gonna leave us on.
till we go to
Yeah.
exec.
I got you now.
So highway, we asked to commit Joe.
Yeah.
And just to go through some line, I had some
Where
questions.
are we?
If you go to DB fund expenses,
So what page is that?
Well,
um,
first, we're gonna, you wanna hit like maybe the garage first,
Oh,
in
which-
A fund,
that's A fund.
yep.
Yep.
The numbers. Not the pages. Page 5,
Oh,
the
Okay,
numbers start with 50101.
I have it here in front of me in
Yeah,
a
okay,
different
in a
format,
yeah,
but it's okay, I do have it.
Yeah,
First with five.
page,
I don't see it.
Superintendent of highway.
Bye.
No, we
Yeah.
go down. We're looking at
Garage.
garage,
Right.
All right, so what's
EQ.
on that page?
yeah, so you're in here.
7.
So
Oh, that's like page 6 or 7.
Is it? Oh, man.
Found it.
I don't
the
know.
one thing,
Page 7,
It's definitely a Monday, right?
Yeah.
right?
the one thing I always try to look at in budget, and let me preface this because I'm going to do the same thing with Danielle when she comes. To me, when you review a budget, it's not a critique of the department, nor is it a critique of the supervisor. It's basically justifications for major changes. Now, I mentioned this to Lois, and maybe you guys did it at Root or at your business, maybe you did it at the state. Whenever we got budget material, they always gave us the percentage of change up or down. And if it was
Okay.
over a certain percentage, like 20% high or 20% low, you always wanted justifications. So questioning some of these line items is not a critique. It's more of why is it changing that much kind of thing. So let me ask you, Joe, is there anything now in the 500s which Lois says
Yeah.
is highway, was a big jump up or a big jump down that you had to consider?
There was one item, that we raised, and, it was, machinery CE, if that correct, Lois?
Are you talking about
Wait.
DV fund or?
DV fund.
We're talking A right
We
now.
were
Oh, you
gonna
want
do
A?
A.
Just
Yeah.
saying.
All right, so, all right, so we're talking about the garage EQ, and this is
Right.
all about that system that
Mhm.
I've been talking about for years. It is a system where when someone is taking fuel from the tank, that it is basically identified, the person is identified by his key, not pod, key something. What is it? Fob, key fob. He is identified by that. The truck is then identified, okay? And all of this stuff, instead of keeping, I should have brought the paperwork that is like this for the past years, okay? Everything is identified. When you're dealing with an audit, when you're dealing with any discrepancies, when you're dealing with keys of people, different people using the system, for example, different departments, which is going to become very important because the town highway department is going to be charging other departments for their fuel. Okay?
Mhm.
I guess it would be much easier with this system. I know it would be, because it would identify the user, which department they work for, and very easily calculate it. This is my intent for this. This is a low number. It's a little bit higher than this. It's like 110, the request for this system. It is
Where are we?
changing.
Yeah, it's far away.
So is this a reconciliation system that you're
Yeah.
trying to reconcile
Well,
when
it's
somebody
a-
uses
Oh,
something?
it's not just reconciliation. It's done on a day-to-day basis. What it does is it tells, instead of us writing down, I should have brought a slip. I should have brought a couple of slips or the whole package. But you're writing down the date, the time, the vehicle, the mileage, the fuel, the amount of fuel, and then signing off. I think there's like 7 or 8 categories on a sheet of paper that sits out in the garage. It's untenable. It has been for years. We've done the best we can with it, but it's a very important part of what we do. And to be able to then say, okay, well, so-and-so from the rec department used this much fuel. Okay, now it's coming out of my budget. It always has. It's never changed, but it should. It should be out of their budget.
Well, what does this system do, Joe?
The system
I mean,
identifies everything, and with a press of a button, you can have a printout of who used what. Instead of, would you go up and get that thing for me,
You
please?
know, I'm following you 100%.
Yeah, I have-
Because
yeah.
we've been through this at the Bridge Authority.
Yeah.
So we moved from paperwork to what I want to know is this going to be like the machine,
Yeah,
the software,
yeah,
and everything that
Yeah.
goes with it?
Yep.
Is what this budget item number is. right?
correct.
Exactly. So
Correct.
I'm following.
It's not just
So-
that, just hold on 1 minute, hold on. It's 2 new tanks
Yes.
and 2 new pumps. Our
That's it.
tanks are
So this includes the
tanks,
and
and it's the
pumps.
whole
The
fuel
whole-
system with a
Okay.
fuel
Oh,
management.
that's
So
a
the
big
fuel
difference.
management system's $8,000.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Yeah, okay.
That's better.
Yeah.
That
All right,
exciting.
so what this does is it gets rid of tanks that have baffles in them that are
Yeah.
completely plugged. They are 2 double wall tanks. The double wall tanks, the outer tank can have no fluid in it. Well, it can certainly have no product, but even water is a problem. Our gauges are pinned every day. Every day because the baffles are all plugged and the water can't disperse through the tank They're plugged.
Mhm.
It's all plugged. Now they were put in 1991, I believe.
So the fob that worked for me was the same fob that, like, we had locks on the door, so you fob in, you can open the door.
Mm-hmm.
It was the same exact fob. It identified me. So if I went like
Correct.
this at the gas pump,
Correct.
it identified me as using,
Yep.
25 gallons of gas.
Yeah.
Right? So me was billed to headquarters,
Yep.
right? It does all of that.
This is all me since I've been here.
So this is a new system.
Yep. This is
That will
what we
be
deal with.
installed when? If the budget is approved,
Handwritten.
when will it be approved?
It will not be, when it's approved, I will then go out and I have gotten a budgetary estimate, okay? Of, what was it exactly, Kathleen, 100 and,
So the 95,
Where does that show?
616 plus 10.
Okay.
It's
So-
95,000.
Yes, but
106.
106,000.
I know,
We do, this
we
is
were gonna
monthly.
try
Yeah,
to
I,
put one of the.
It's all handwritten, you wanna see it? Or is
I
it,
That
don't
was
need
a
to,
smaller
but-
tank, that was a 10.
but I get it.
grand something,
and this is not
but we're
to
going to do it all
lessen
together. So we're gonna
our work,
increase that
it is
line.
just so,
More accurate. Yeah.
So I just have one question.
yeah,
If it's a fob system.
yep,
And Joe goes to fill truck number 3.
yep,
Does the fob know what truck
Yes.
you're driving?
no, you punch that in.
Okay, you punch it.
Yeah, you punch that in.
And you
That's what
punch-
I'm told. I'm not as familiar with them yet. I
Okay.
have not looked at them
I
yet,
got it.
but it is,
So the
all
fob
of
just,
that
it's
is
your fob,
identifiable.
it identifies you, the
boom,
fob
me,
opens it
the
up.
fuel you've used,
Gotcha.
truck number.
Okay,
Now,
you punch in the other.
I believe so, yep,
so this is not only a control on use,
yeah,
but it also allows the bookkeeper to know exactly what department used that percentage of that fuel.
yep,
And then that amount of fuel will be assessed against that department moving forward.
correct. And the only other thing we need, which is the simplest of all, is a fuel policy. Who does this?
Who does what?
Who bills who? Is it just gonna be the fob? At what price are they being billed? For example, we're getting fuel. What are the discrepancies? They're pennies probably. Well, it's not too hard. I would say you do it at the first.
It fluctuates.
Yeah, it does, but you know what? There are bids now that I'm looking at. County bid doesn't fluctuate. You get it for a firm price. The heck with this going out, a lot of this stuff going out to bid when we actually don't get bids anymore. We got one this year. One
So how many
for
different,
fuel.
how many different departments access that fuel?
1, 2, 3, 4.
Four.
For now.
So I go in as a recreation, I fill up the truck
Yep.
using my fob.
Mm-hmm.
It automatically records the truck,
Yep.
who was the person, and then that amount times the price goes to bookkeeper, and that's assessed against their budget.
Absolutely.
Well, all right, it would just record the amount of gallons.
That's what I mean.
It would record the amount of gallons,
Yeah.
but she knows how much we've paid.
Yeah,
But who does this? Is it gonna be the bookkeeper? Is it gonna be, who's gonna be responsible for it? We have absolutely no policy who's responsible.
But it's
for this.
automated, is it not?
It is automated, and that's the good part.
So then why isn't it just going to the bookkeeper's office?
That's what I'm asking.
Now,
you
if
know,
you're asking for an
she's looking at
audit
me.
of the monthlies, that's
She's
different.
looking at me like, yeah,
That's different.
no, I know.
So
So all I'm saying is that if we do this, if it comes to fruition, we need a policy to use it. That's all. Because right now, we just don't.
now the question to you, have you built into each department's budget for 2025 an allocation of fuel against that department?
We have,
She has it,
wait, just a minute. We have been doing this for 3 years.
but on paper.
Just a minute. On paper, we've been doing this for 3 years, trying to get an average of what the departments use. And the reason for that was because I was going to ask this question, obviously, because at some point, and it's now maybe, that you don't you need to allocate something in your budget, the other departments for fuel.
Right.
But we have a number in here for fuel, right?
No,
Against his
No.
department.
it's all, it's,
Only
no,
the
just me.
highway.
No, but that would include everybody.
Yes.
Right,
Yeah, it
now.
includes everybody.
All right, so we just have to break it out. That's all.
Well, we did, well,
It's
we,
easier said than done.
we have sort of
Well,
broken it out.
He's got to give her
Yes.
Yeah,
the
we have sort
average
of
per
broken it
year.
Yes.
Right.
And it's
I
around,
make it sound easy. Words are easy.
Yeah.
it's a round number, but, so anyway.
So 95,000,
That's for
No,
the
no,
tanks
so
and
a
the
little bit
system.
more.
No,
a
just,
little
just,
bit more.
Because
just,
we were gonna do,
it may be
110.
less, it may be
110.
less, this is
This
a
year, but we're doing
budgetary
both.
number that someone gave me, I asked them for. When they give you a budgetary number, usually there are other things attached to it. You may be able to get it off of a government contract, which is less. Okay, if you go to like a Sourcewell or somebody like that. So this is a retail budgetary number, let's put it that way.
But you're budgeting right now for our approval,
Correct.
a number that is 95,000.
No, it's 100 and.
It's
It
going to
doesn't say
110,000.
110.
I know,
No,
because
but-
when we spoke,
Yeah, we don't,
we were gonna,
yeah,
we're gonna put in the small tank for 10 grand.
So the
But now we're
110,
gonna do it all together.
We're gonna do it all together.
so the 110 line item with a code number is going to be against his department.
Yes.
However, the real expense, so no other department's incurring an expense for that system. They're just getting allocated, so he's not hit with the
Well, it's
total
coming
fuel
out of the
cost.
It's coming out of the
it's
eight,
coming out of the eight.
not highway,
Correct,
because it's building,
okay,
not
all right.
Yeah.
directly related to the road.
To me,
Sounds right.
it's a no-brainer because with our buddy that's been sitting here for 8 weeks, those are the kinds of things they look at to figure out, are you controlling things? Who's using what? Can you prove that so-and-so used it? Now you've got an automated system.
That's what it's all about.
I think that's great.
Okay,
Now, I've been working on this for 3 years. The price hasn't really going up. Believe it or not.
So have we, because it's a new system and it's electronic and it's computer-based, will there be consultant costs along with this initial purchase?
We'll see. I don't
Well-
believe that I believe that it's going to be something to the tune of a monthly
Right.
cost, like, for example, your cameras.
Yes.
Monthly cost.
Yeah.
Something like that. We'll
But-
figure all that out. I'm going into Pleasant Valley next week. They just had the system installed a couple of years ago, 2 years ago, I believe. And I'm going to look at their whole system. The secretary is going to show us how it all works, et cetera.
So by
Right.
next
Good.
budget meeting,
field trip to Mid-Hudson Bridge. too.
Yeah, yeah,
oh yeah.
yeah.
So by next budget meeting, we should be able to then know the budget guess for this whole project.
Yeah, well, you basically have a budget guess, but if you need more information, I'll get more information. Exactly what you want is, I'm assuming, is a monthly
Yeah,
fee
monthly.
cost based on the operation of the system. Is that correct?
Where will this be housed?
Well, it'll be housed with the tanks.
With the tanks.
And then the computer will be here.
We'll be here, not over there.
No,
Okay.
no, I don't want to.
Okay.
No, right here in the office.
All right, good.
Okay, all right.
gotcha.
Was that the only big one under A that you found was something new?
Yes,
Okay.
So we're moving from
Now we go to A to DB.
Yep, so that's, one of the
Okay.
last pages, sorry, the numbers.
So DB,
Yeah,
I have a question, Joe,
Mhm.
about your budget in 24 compared to budget in
it's the fourth page,
25
Yep.
it starts from the last.
for number 5101, which is general repairs.
yep,
You're going up
no,
23,000.
no.
From 24 to 25? Sure you are. You went from 351 to 368,000.
What, 5110, are you talking about?
Yeah.
My general
5110,
repairs
general
line?
repairs, PS.
Oh, PS. Yeah, that's your,
Yes,
that's your
personal
salaries.
services.
So you're, that was fine with that.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah,
So that was an okay.
yeah.
That was okay.
You'll notice that the budget has not gone up.
No,
You'll notice that my budget is less than last year.
right.
You'll notice that my budget is less than 2016.
Okay. CE stands for what again?
Contractual expenses.
Okay, so CE on number 1304, machinery CE.
Yep,
Budget
Where are
of,
you? Where are you? I'm lost. I'm lost.
we're in the DB.
Yeah.
We're on number
The
5,
beginning of DB,
DB.
Yeah, I think it would be the next,
the next page from
yeah, on the
DB.
top.
It says
51104,
51104,
yeah, point four.
general repairs.
Yeah.
CEs.
yeah, but now you're down on,
Now I'm down to machinery.
now you're down to
Oh,
machine.
okay.
51304.
I got it.
Yep,
Your budget in 24 was 54.
yep,
Now it's 64.
correct.
Is that because of the cost of,
It
Everything
certainly,
going up.
it most certainly is. That is your mechanics, contractual expenses. These are parts
that's what I thought.
that we not only can't get, but they cost more when you get them.
And that was a $10,000 jump.
Yes, and that's my fault. I really didn't, last year, because this year the account, dried up, was expended. Obviously, we had to, move, money from from 51104 to compensate for it. And, so I talked to the mechanic. It's very hard to predict what's going to happen, but, usually we're pretty much dead on with these accounts. The other one that if you go down to brush and weeds,
Yeah,
which is
it's just-
5140,
Yeah,
you will see that we only increased that by 2,000. However, that account also had some issues, and the reason was I had two major poles of the tractor. Had to split two different tractors, and also do some other work on tractor number 2. So it's getting old. It's still in good shape,
Yeah.
I'm told. I'm not going to replace it right away, but we did have to do some work there. So that exhausts that line along with other things that we include in that line.
and then going down to 51404, which is brush and weed CE.
Yeah, that's your overtime line.
Right, so, but you dropped it from 18,000 to 14,000.
Yep.
Are you comfortable with
I
dropping
am,
it?
I am.
Okay,
I don't think we've ever used more than 6,000 of it.
well, you got 17,000
Yeah,
so
this
far
year,
to date.
14,000.
because of that.
Yes,
um,
right. But you're comfortable with, that's a good
Repairs.
number.
I am.
Okay. The other big one, and Lois, you can answer this. The state retirement
mhm,
is going up 19,000.
yeah.
Is that because we have new people out?
Um, it's based on a certain period of time from April 1st, their year starts to March 31st. And they give me a
So you're over
predicted,
that.
they give me a predicted, well, it's a pretty accurate invoice. Actually, I did get the invoice that's due in February. So
Okay.
I know who is, and they give me a report and I split out the costs per A fund, B fund, and DB fund employees.
Okay. 19,000 is a big jump though.
Mhm,
Right. Then the other one I had, Lois, you can answer this.
mhm.
Your workers' comp went down 6,000?
And workers' comp went down. I got the projected invoice.
Yeah,
as
we
well.
spoke
Yeah.
about that a few
Yeah,
meetings
yeah,
ago.
I think because of, now you're talking about, that
State-
history
yeah,
factor,
okay.
and time frame.
Yeah, well, we haven't had a lot of,
Right.
we haven't had a lot.
Work
In the
safety's
last,
been good. Yeah.
since I got here, I don't know how many, but not that many.
You had that one leg, that was it.
Yeah, we had a few,
Yeah. And then lastly, I had a question, was the debt service on the bond
Yep,
is dropping 46,000?
yep, because we paid,
Paid
I
off.
paid them off.
we have one.
Okay, good.
When we have excess money at the end of the year, it should be used to pay these
Good.
things off.
Yeah.
You'll also
Yeah.
notice that we do not have any, and I'm not sure what line it is. Where do you keep the bands, Lois?
It's down towards the bottom. It's a 9.7. It's like the last two line
Yeah.
items.
Yeah.
Interest on debt
But
service.
that is that just the bridge there? Is that what's left?
The
Culvert?
culvert, yeah.
Yeah, so I don't have any machinery, none
Good.
in that.
Good.
Well, what about the new truck?
No, paid for it.
Oh, you paid for it?
Yeah, we used to be fund money. Yeah, and fund balance.
That's right,
So there's-
fantastic.
There's no debt. So you're also, if you look to 2023, all the way down to, up to 2025, on the bottom line,
Yeah.
look at the difference in the budget.
12,775.
Look at the difference in your budget.
No, that's
Yeah.
good.
Good.
Maybe if we last long enough, Joe, we'll get trucks that drive themselves, you know?
Oh, yeah, that really worked well in Asheville.
Yeah.
I'd like to get men to get in it themselves, you
Yeah.
know, instead of having to,
Okay. Yeah.
I didn't have anything else on highway.
Nope,
I just
No.
needed some clarification, but that system sounds great.
I think we're one of three left, maybe four that
Don't
still
have
have it.
it.
Yeah. Maybe four.
It's time.
But someday we gotta talk about his buildings. We
Oh,
really
yeah.
do.
We can say that every year.
I know, I know. And every time I see that commercial on those metal buildings that go up and we gotta do something. Well, did you find anything more challenging this year other than the price of parts and stuff when you were doing your budget?
No, not at all. I find that using Lois helping tremendously and Kathleen, using certain areas of that we are privy to, for example, the knowledge about the B fund, how it works. We went into fund balance and things like that to be able to save this money. Over the last few years, we've also been paying off these vehicles. You'll notice there's none left.
Yeah.
And we got 2 new trucks sitting in there that we just got in the last few months.
Are you anticipating, and we've always talked about this, even though a truck is at a certain age with miles, not keeping them, but actually rotating them? You got any projections for 25?
I'm gonna need, well, I have 2 1998 or 99 Sanders that at some point will be, and probably one this year coming. It won't be in this year's budget, but we'll have to change one of them out. And again, we've resurrected 7. We hired a new guy who loves the truck, who's used the truck for 20 years. He loves it. We resurrected it as our backup and it's in good shape, so.
And any word from the state on change in the CHIPS program? Because the legislature talked about it last year.
Yeah, they talk about it every year. I'm not sure. We still have the 4, I believe there's CHIPS, there's Pave New York, EWR, and what's the other one
I
called?
used the other 3.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
we have chips left.
yeah. No, I know we have CHIPS left. As far as you mean reinstituting the funding?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, if they don't, they have some more dirt roads. Because that's what we use to blacktop our roads.
Hey, Joe, but you know, in the back of your head, it'd be nice if at some point you can calculate, like, if we were to put a new building up, for instance.
We can do that.
Well, what size you would need.
Yeah.
Things like that, because
$1 million.
I think the
well,
idea,
I'm just saying, you know, because you can.
we've been through this. I think the
Oh,
one thing that I'm
I
waiting
don't
for.
remember us going through.
Yeah, we did. Yeah, we did. We met a couple of times, you know, I did price a building, but it's not the building necessarily,
It's the
it's the
place.
site.
Right.
It's the site.
Al helped us on that. Remember, we did a walk around and the conclusion was there's not
Can't do
enough
it
room
there.
over there to build one with one existing. And they can't knock them down because it's seasonal. So the problem is the site.
It's the site. It's chilly, it's rock. You
Yeah.
can't expand the thing that you need to, which is your salt shed. I mean, I literally order salt sometimes within 3-4 days of it being full. And then again and again. Now, it's okay until they don't show,
Yeah,
but, you know, you got a small shed. It's a tough site. It's just a tough site. It's in the armament zone. It's probably worth a good bundle, but there are some other sites that we've identified that if you want, I'll pass on to you and,
sure.
see how it
Because
goes.
it's inevitable that we have to do it at some point.
1941.
Yeah,
I think you're the last one, maybe.
And it's a tribute to his staff that they can do what they do over there,
oh, there's no doubt about it.
especially the mechanics and stuff inside.
Yeah, those floors are getting rough, boy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When you have to jack up a jack
And it
before you
crumbles.
jack up the truck.
Don't tell the guy that's sitting here when he goes over.
No, that's all right. It's not that, you know, it's workable right now, but it's not gonna be for long.
Did you have anything for us?
No. No.
Okay.
Do you need me for salaries?
Uh,
I'll stay if you want. I mean, if you're going into executive session and you want me to stay, I will.
His recommendations, we went through, I didn't think you had any problems with them.
No, let me know if you want to, obviously.
Yeah, no, I just
Yes.
gotta flip some things, but they're
Okay.
not more costly, they're less.
Okay.
Okay.
So then, no.
No, we don't.
No,
We're good.
All right.
Thank you,
Leslie,
Joe.
did you have any questions for Joe?
No. Thank you.
All right.
Thanks, Joe.
Yeah.
Kathleen,
thanks,
thank
Joe.
you.
Kathleen.
Take care.
thanks.
Sorry, I didn't know my Zoom was, my mute was off, was
Okay.
on.
See y'all.
Okay,
Yeah.
good night. Good night.
Good night, Joe.
No.
Danielle.
Testing.
Start.
Leslie, can you hear me?
Yep.
I don't know if you want to talk about income, you
Yes.
just want to go to expenses.
All right, where are we?
That would start on page 3. From the very beginning,
It's general ledger number,
2025.
right,
So
2025. It says park and pool.
Yep, and then down to 2089.
Right,
Several different line items.
okay. Budget review, I'm speaking all the time. I apologize to the board, but it's not a critique of the department nor the runner of the department, but it's more of an educational tool for us and for you. So some of the questions are going to be not difficult, but need kind of what they call justification.
Okay.
As I mentioned before, typically, and Lois can do this, and she's thinking of doing it next year, whenever a budget is run, there's usually an extra column that shows a percentage increase or a percentage decrease. And it's usually a policy of the board that's reviewing it, that they'll ask questions about, maybe it's a 20% increase or a 20% decrease or a 50%. So those are the things we're going to kind of concentrate on. So I have, because I work with you so closely, some questions, and I prepped you that these questions would be asked between what you budgeted in 24 and you're asking to budget in 25. And there's some outstanding discrepancies in numbers. And I just want to try and get a sense of why the numbers changed so much. So,
Do you have the?
Mike, can I interrupt just for a second, just so for clarification purposes? On the, where it says requested budget 2025 and recommended
Mhm.
2025,
right,
the date 10/3/24, 10/7?
Those were our meeting dates, so I
Oh.
can keep track.
Gotcha,
of-
gotcha.
Right,
Okay,
of the progression.
So the first question I have is number 2025 Park and Pool. And we're on the general ledger, which is your expenses. And it says in budget in 2024, you budgeted 34,000
Mhm.
for that line item. And this year, you're budgeting 30,
Right.
but your actual in 2024 was 25,000. So in 2024, your actual was 25,566.
Mhm.
Your budget, it was 34. That's an $8,000 difference. Why did it not come in on budget?
Park and pool.
Park and pool, that line item refers to what, Lois?
Admission to the park.
Okay,
Yeah, for the income, yes, admission to the park, pool passes.
okay.
Yeah.
So it's
So this is income we're looking at. Is
Yes,
that the
yeah,
idea?
with the
So-
numbers that
so
start
you're
with
asking-
it's
two.
revenue.
So
Yeah,
the revenue was 25,000.
She had projected 34.
Okay,
She came in at 25.
so that answers that. I mean,
So she was under by 8.
Yeah.
Well, we
In
had weather,
revenue.
we had a lot of rain early
Right,
on,
so
right?
the-
Mhm.
Well, it was
it was-
closed many
We
days.
closed.
So we closed,
Because we had
lightning. and
Okay.
all
The
that.
lightning strikes,
right.
right.
So that's why this year you're looking to, as a revenue stream for park and pool
30.
is 30.
Right.
Okay, so the $8,000 was what you said. You had to close several times, weather was an issue and so on. Was it also, and I know you've been tracking attendance, has attendance been falling off over the last several years? Or is it stagnant?
All I did was 23 and 24, and yes, it has.
So
It's
less
fallen off.
people are coming to the
Yes,
park.
and the most people that are coming are non-residents,
Most people coming are non-residents.
non-residents.
So between 23 and 24. do you
So
have
in
a figure of-
23,
In 23, there was,
the non-residents were 10,000. And the non-residents in 24 were 6,400.
Oh, my.
and in 23, the prior year actual was 32,000, and then it dropped to 23,000 or 25,000. So that's a big drop off.
So that's a drop off. That's another reason why this figure is
So-
up.
Attendance.
Pool
The
passes were
poor
down.
attendance.
So again, a rippling effect to, if we're talking about enhancement to that park, and we're talking big bucks, possibly enhancement, how, we can't answer it now, but we got to keep in our mind, how can we generate more people going up there? Because this is not sustainable. When we get down to actual
Oh, yeah.
expenses against total budget and revenue against total expenses in 2024, it was 6 figures in the whole almost.
You know, being a Mavisville boy, the place was always packed, but not everybody had a swimming pool like they have today. And my thought eventually is that, lake that we have there, let's call it a lake. It's too much to take care of.
The waterfront.
Yeah, I mean, eventually we may have to put a lot of money into it and just put a pool in.
But there's also a change in demographic of people moving to town and the village. They are not
Mhm.
families with children,
That's true. Yeah.
I mean, growing up,
Mhm.
we had the
Oh.
Lefteris,
I mean, we
had
went
the
there
Rod-
every
we had-
day.
Right.
That's
Yeah.
where we hung out.
There
Oh,
are
I
some
took my kids
families
every
of
day.
7, 8, 9, 10, 11.
We even
Now,
used to go there in the
that
rain.
figure is
Mhm.
zero with families.
Millbrook
Zero.
Central School District enrollment is down
It's
quite a bit,
very
Right.
low.
very
Yet-
low.
Yet they want to
Wow.
spend 59
So,
million.
right, so that number continues to increase.
So
But I
you-
noticed that your seniors is up, right? Yeah, see?
So you're comfortable with your projected 30?
Yeah.
For revenue,
Yes.
for the park and pool. All right, let's go down the toddler program. In 24, you budgeted 35,000.
Mhm.
This year you're budgeting 36,000?
30.
30.
Mhm.
I can't.
Because I don't
But-
use it.
Your actual
Okay.
against budget in 2024 was 22,000. That's a deficit, an off budget by $12,000. Why did you think you were going to make 35? Were you going to increase your number of kids and just the number of kids didn't sign up?
But also, I think there's still revenue coming in You know, this is like 2024.
This is
Oh,
Actually,
right,
today.
we're
Yeah, that's-
October.
So you
This
got
is
2
the
months left.
Um,
Are you gonna make up $12,000 in 2 months?
Okay, let me show you.
Because the prior year actual was
School-
Well, do we have
23.
a
Right.
monthly toddler?
Yeah.
number?
Yeah, we have this is, for example, 23 and 24,
I got 23 and 24 numbers right here.
right?
Prior year
So-
actual was 23,000.
So I brought in, according to this, for the school, that's the problem, this is the school year. So I'm taking some of 22, or, yeah, 23 and then 24 in this budget.
Mhm.
So our amount that we took in for this program for the school year of 23-24 is $39,407.
But that doesn't help us with our budget. Because you're splitting those dollars
But
into
you
2
have to-
separate years.
Yeah.
But this will catch up to itself so that you can see.
So that's why this is an education for everybody.
Okay.
If the prior year actual for 2023 was 23,000. And the
Because that was
actual,
only part of the year.
and the actual,
Correct. We only started this program, right.
but the
right.
actual to date is 22,000.
Mhm.
And to date meant September,
Mhm. Yes.
October, November,
I
December. So you got
agree.
3 months to get to what you anticipated on your math to be 35,000. Are you going to make up $12,000 in 3 years against your 24
months.
budget in 3 months? Or are you going to be off budget? You're not going to make budget.
I am going to make budget. I don't know how to explain it, but I am going to make budget.
Well, wait a
They're
minute.
bringing,
Oh, when did we start the program?
If it started in 2024, which it did,
September of 2024.
23rd of
That's the
3,
problem,
it
that is that
started
it's
in
a school.
September 23.
Okay. Well, then you have to stop it in June of 24 to understand the school. Can I,
So
can
when
I?
you're doing your budget, your actual toddler budget is a 6-month budget in our budget.
No, it's a
I'm
10-month
gonna
budget.
update
It's a 10-month budget.
actual to-
So it's a 5-month budget in our budget.
No, because you're
That's
doing
right.
part of it. So you're doing January to January to
June.
June, and then you're
Yeah,
doing
6 months.
September.
To December. But the January to June is
6 months.
6
right?
months.
And then September to December.
So that's within the same calendar year. So your budget should be just for 1 year of the calendar year. It doesn't overlap. The school does overlap, but the budget for the year doesn't overlap.
Because our budget
Yeah,
doesn't.
our
overlap.
budget doesn't overlap.
Correct.
School budgets, they.
The school
they end
does.
in June?
Oh,
I
no.
think so. I don't know.
Like you're talking about a fiscal year.
Yeah.
We don't
Correct.
have one,
No, we have a
right? We have
calendar. year.
calendar year.
So that's why I think that number 12,000, a deficit of 12,000 against your 24 budget is real.
I don't think
Or
it,
it'll be a little less because
Because
there's,
you still have,
3 months.
yeah,
So you,
and I'll update.
so what's your,
these.
so here's the way to solve that. What's the average revenue per month
month.
of the daycare
Right,
program?
that's what I said. Beginning.
Gina.
The average per month is probably what, 3,000?
it depends how they want to pay it though. You know, like there's some people that pay for the entire year.
So you divide that by 12.
Right, but then the income is going to be coming into 20, like for example, for this, it's going to be coming into that first year and nothing the second year. So it's going to look off. Do you see what, do you understand what I'm
Yeah.
saying?
Correct.
So like I had a couple of people that paid for their entire tuition in 23 before 24, but the school year ended in 24.
right,
So I'm just trying to figure out how
How
do
to
you
do
come
that.
to your projected 25 budget of 30,000? You're asking, you're projecting a revenue for the toddler program in 2025 to be $30,000. So some of that money's coming in as a result of revenue from 24 plus some revenue from 25 to equal 30?
That's correct.
Wow.
Can I show you this breakdown here?
No, I'm just,
So you can-
that's where you came to.
Does anybody
this.
else want to say the 2023, 24 breakdown so that you,
I don't want to see it.
Yeah.
I just
So
need to
I
know,
have,
like, if you understand, like what Mike is
Cover.
saying, as far as.
we're
a-
up to 27. I printed this out today from the MyRec,
Okay,
according to cash
okay.
transaction date. So we've already, it's already hasn't increased.
So the total for the year would be
So-
27,000.
So, yeah, I'm sorry, I just did this today. and this
total
is from-
right now is 27?
That's what,
For the year.
yeah,
For the,
Year to date, but we still have
is
3
it
months.
year
Still
to
have-
date? And you
yes,
still
yes.
have,
yes.
so,
Okay.
so
So
what are
you
you
might-
saying she needs more money then?
No, I think
She's gonna get
I
what she
think
said, is what she's
she's gonna
saying.
she's gonna be much closer to
Yeah.
what her predicted
35,000.
Of, okay.
I mean,
of-
let's say, you
okay,
you
so
think you
wait.
bring in another $5,000,
Okay. So what,
or 4, whatever, that'll bring your
Bring it close
number
to
up
the budget, 24.
closer to the 2024 budget. I mean, we might still be lower, but
okay, so that answers the 2024, but this is 2025 and
Right.
she's projecting less income.
yes.
So
She might,
should she
might
project
make
more
that.
income for, is what I'm trying to ask. Does everybody understand why I'm
Yeah, and
asking that?
not to pick, but
Right,
she's got the biggest department other than highway. And when I did the 24 budget against actual year to date, it was $51,000 off revenue. Not understanding these other half-year things. I didn't understand that. So I was looking at a $51,000 loss in 2024 for
the whole.
recreation
Right.
revenue. And that's not tolerable. I mean, you couldn't run a program if you're running $51,000 loss every year. Total, maximum.
Basketball here is off because it
It's
is
again
now,
the same
yeah,
thing.
it's up to, well, it increased a little bit.
But we're talking about,
1675.
basically, we're talking about
But I don't-
basketball for 24, not, right?
Right,
Right, so,
right, and basketball has just started, but it's still.
but
falls
it
in our
actually is a
category.
program that happens in 25. We're collecting the money for it now, but it's the program that,
Understood.
Right.
Well, our budget starts January, so
Right.
you're asking us for us to approve the requested numbers for 2025. And I'm just trying to reconcile, are you going to make those numbers? And why did you come to those numbers?
Like basketball revenue is like
Here,
completely changed from 13 to 8. So why are we? And again, it's a projected income.
well,
right?
last
So
year,
that's-
we had an income of 11,540.
In 24?
Yes, I'm sorry, for the 24, see, our software is different. So mine is showing how much income I take for that program. So the program actually happens in 24, but some of the money is brought in 20, right? 23. So what I'm showing is that I had $11,500 that I took in for basketball, and my the expenses was 9,300. So I had over $2,000 left in my balance for basketball last year.
Can I have more?
Oh, we don't need.
I'm
more.
telling you, I have the
Just
Monday.
pass it around.
Okay.
Sorry about that.
But that's a reminder that Dutchess Day, we put out the $3,500 and they gave us back the $3,500.
I was not specific enough.
I tried. Okay.
Wait till she comes back. Okay.
Sorry.
Well, we should figure out a way to break it down.
Because as I said, when I was doing a budget analysis, and
Right.
went through, I had negatives in every single program against the 24 budget,
Right.
except for one, and that was the community events was a plus 940.
I don't know how you
Yeah.
did that because I don't have any negatives except for camp and seniors.
If I took your 24 budget
Right.
and I was provided with revenues actual, if you take your budget and revenue actual and you subtract the differences, you're going to come up with negatives in every program except community events. So to solve this next year, is it possible where you give us actual to date and then another column which is projected?
For the balance. of
So in
the
other
year.
words, you take your actual,
Mhm.
you divide by 12, you times 3,
We have to, right,
and that gives you what you anticipate
to add
the
another.
end of the year revenue would be. Then these negatives wouldn't show. Because as she's explaining, Danielle's explaining, revenues are coming in
Constantly, right,
October, November, December.
absolutely.
She may get a chunk of revenue between October, November, December that will
Absolutely.
throw this budget number
Yeah.
to a positive, where
Right,
we're trying to make decisions and we're looking at negatives
because of the timing,
because of timing.
right.
And with the toddler program,
It messes
it's an overlap of fiscal year with calendar year.
Yeah, so I think you're pretty close to right on the toddler program,
on
I'm
revenue,
I'm showing
think
making
so.
$12,000.
Yeah.
But yeah,
making $12,000 this year or for 2025.
no. For this year, it's going to be a little less because our rent is more expensive. And I have 2 spots on Fridays that are not filled.
So let me ask you this question then. Again, this is not criticism. I'm just trying to get a concept of
Right.
this
Right,
because
right.
this is not our dollars. If we're looking at park and pool down to recreation revenue, that's your bracket. Your bracket goes from 2025-1, I can't read, down to 2089. This bracket here, right, straight across is your revenue bracket, all of this in here.
Right.
So for your whole revenue program for recreation, you're anticipating that your 2024 revenue is going to be on 24 budget or slightly less than 24 budget. You're going to make 24's budget. We're not talking 25 yet.
Right.
You're going to make 24's
As far
budget
as my numbers are.
for recreation program.
I think it's very important
Mhm.
that these numbers reflect our calendar year and not a fiscal,
Correct.
because we're not really looking at,
We don't, right.
do you see what I mean? Do you see what I mean? Lois?
Yes.
So
yes,
if that's
absolutely.
possible to do,
right? I don't see why it wouldn't be possible.
I don't see why it shouldn't, you know what I mean? Danielle, do you understand? Yeah.
No,
Or you don't?
No.
Okay. All right, so our calendar year is January
okay, yeah,
to, and you're throwing in numbers from a fiscal point of view,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
But we need it to reflect the town budget from start to end of December.
what have you guys done in the past?
That's-
These were the
do
same
you see what I
things,
We
mean?
haven't had a toddler program in the past.
but you
We've
still had
always-
Has it
basketball
always
that was the
been
same
a
thing.
fiscal?
Always- it's
Because
always been
basketball-
Calendar year,
Basketball is similar to that same thing, what we're talking about.
right,
where you're
but you
collecting it.
also have what you've collected in the beginning of 2024
For 25.
for basketball. You collected that money and now you're collecting again in 2024, in the fall you're starting. So it's still in a calendar year. Like you'll get money for basketball.
Right, because some of it
in
was taken out of
January,
24.
maybe, you know,
already, so I
probably,
haven't-
yeah.
Let me make it simple.
Yeah,
It's December.
Yeah.
And I'm playing in a program that's going to be in February.
mm-hmm,
I give you $10 in December.
mm-hmm,
Does that $10 go into the 24 budget?
absolutely.
There's a $10
no
revenue
way
now
That
that's
you can-
carved out from 25. So when February comes and that program starts, that $10 is not there. It's already been counted for the previous year's
Right.
budget.
Correct.
So
Yeah.
that revenue, that $10 revenue is not going to be a $25 revenue.
Yeah.
It's a $10 revenue in 24.
she can run her reports based on her basketball season, but we can't budget that way. We have to budget in our calendar year.
Right.
Correct.
It's just the way.
Well,
So
the
that makes it a
toddler
little bit
program
more
too,
complicated,
Yes,
but I
the
can help you
toddler
with it.
program. It's what you're anticipating collecting in 2024.
But doesn't it catch up to itself for the, let's say, for the toddler program?
The
It
only,
does,
wa-
that's what I
Yeah,
was saying,
but
even
the only-
basketball
It
does.
but the
will.
only way it catches up totally, if you were to end the program. Let's say you just dissolve the program.
Right.
Then the bookkeeping ends on that day. Then everything up to that date would be added all together, and then you could say, the program no longer exists and we made $10,000 or we lost $10,000. But once it never catches up because the months are always ahead of the catch-up.
And because people can pay things off
Early.
any way they
Pay
want.
Yeah.
Early, they can pay, then you might not get anything next year.
And the
You know,
only reason I bring this
you gotta
up
look at it
is
as a calendar.
surprises for her.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Pumps break.
Yeah.
Lifeguards go on
A
strike.
year from now.
Mhm.
Concessions,
Courthouse.
trying to figure out, oh, then we're trying to dip into dollars that we may not have.
Well, it was always my understanding that park and pool not necessarily can sustain itself by the
Well,
way.
we know that too.
Right,
Right.
the rec, it should, it should,
Mhm.
but the park and pool, it can't.
Because
You're
now-
never gonna make
We're
enough
seeing-
revenue to.
Exactly.
Well,
100%.
and that brings up a good point. I did park and pool. Actual expenses in park and pool for 2024, $361,356.
Mhm.
Actual revenue for park and pool, $115,115. A deficit of $246,000 on park and pool. Because
Park and
recreation gets in there, all that money gets in there.
You have park and pool, you do have salaries,
Correct.
you do have, your repairs.
Repairs.
Yeah.
The emergency
It- it
repair
could-
to the
you could
sewer
also be taking up
systems.
Salaries.
Oh, so you're considering salaries in that? Oh,
And
Because your salaries are paid for out of the revenue that comes out of your program.
Actually, hers isn't.
Hers doesn't, but the others do.
Yes, they're under park and pool,
Right.
71101,
Right.
711.
Yep.
So that's a big responsibility. Plus it's a big, and you get hit with a sewer backup or you get hit with a roof caving in or a
So-
tree going through it.
so-
So
So Matt, who does work for
park and pool,
There's two.
Park and Pool,
his salary
Town
comes out of
Hall.
park and pool.
works over at Highway,
He doesn't really work on highway.
No,
he just put in 3 doors in
Yes,
there
but that
and
comes
put
out
their
of-
that
bathroom.
doesn't, that's a fund, that is not a highway expense, because it's a facility.
Right.
So highway would not be paying him.
If he was
an A
working on the
fund.
roads or,
And
Right.
I'll tell you right now, the next meeting, Joe just informed us there's going to be a new system for tracking fuel.
Mhm.
And each department is going to be allocated the cost of the fuel.
Mhm.
So that
We,
will
we
be
put that in the
something we'll
budget.
build that in.
We did put it in. the budget.
But again, it's a jewel for the community. And if we're starting to plan ahead to how we can improve that jewel, we got to figure out how to pay for the jewel. And yes, and it's little things, 5,000 here, 3,000 there. A sewer system collapsed, 27,000.
We don't even know what that's gonna cost us yet.
But that's why you want to try and build the budget so that we're charging a reasonable rate for people to use the facility and gives you an opportunity also to start building up a fund that you can access whenever, if it wasn't for ARPA, we would have been down the tubes.
But you're talking about park and pool expense,
Right,
like with
that
the,
will
like
never-
that will never happen. I
That
mean,
will never.
recreation, you can charge people this, that, and the other thing, but that has nothing to do with the sewer exploding or
Right.
whatever.
But going through that gate, when somebody's through that gate on a Saturday or Sunday, or that's park and pool, you charge them to come in. That's revenue stream. It's not
Okay.
recreation program.
Okay, but the revenue.
It's never
stream,
going to pay for that.
No,
We
that's
have to
okay.
fully understand that
Yeah.
because we are seeing a decline in
Yeah,
enrollment everywhere.
yeah.
I don't know if it ever really sustained itself. Well,
No, I don't think
maybe
it
way
did.
back when we didn't have a groundskeeper, personal services, expenditure.
But you
line
want to
for
keep
the
that
parks.
jewel a jewel, so you
You
need
do.
people to keep
You
it.
do.
I mean, you've done the walk, that spillway, the
Oh, yeah.
pumping system, all of that. Now, you could improve some of that through a campaign to raise dollars and fix it. But once it's fixed, you got to maintain it. And if you're going to maintain it, you got to have the revenue to maintain it. So you got to charge fees, you got to attract people, you got to do that kind of stuff.
Mhm.
And I know your eyes get big, but
No,
that's
I get
what
it,
that's all
but-
about.
but I don't see, it's your only park that you offer to the
I know.
town of Washington residents. And so it's hard to say you have to pay every time you go in when you can go to other towns and they can go whenever they want.
Right.
If Bennett gets a pool, we are in trouble.
True.
They won't get.
They won't get a pull. But I'm just saying,
Bennett Park.
it's a big ticket item.
They blacktop down there now.
I mean, the whole expense for the whole program is probably
I think if we'd had a pool, I think that we'd have more.
it's the
success.
second largest
I don't think
expense in the
people wanna
town,
swim
right?
in a place where they can't see the bottom.
It is.
Yeah. Park and
It's a
pool
lot
is
of
the
what I hear.
second largest
Oh, really?
expense.
Yeah. It's
Besides
dirty water
highway.
that they can't see inside of.
Mhm.
And I
I,
had-
Danielle, I do agree with that. I think that people are concerned about the just the sort of hygiene of it. Do you know what I mean? Because it's a pond and
have
not
to correct them and tell them that we do put chlorine in it, but I think what they really want is to be able to see the bottom.
Yeah.
We used to see 3 feet, we used to see, when I was there, they had to drop in this thing and you could see the bottom. And it was 7.5 feet down, you could see. And when Betty Gerton was running swim team, you could see the stones because the kids had to do flip turns. And she mandated that the stones were visible, so a kid wasn't going so deep that he scraped his body in the bottom. And you could see all the way down. But the
depended.
spillway,
That depended on a lot of things.
Well,
Mike, I swam in there every day.
I know,
for-
but think of what Matt told us
I
about the
grew up
depth
on a
of that
lake.
house, how the depth has changed to 7 feet.
Yeah.
Now, back when you guys were swimming, I bet you that upper reservoir was probably 8 to 9 feet deep.
Oh, yeah.
Now it's 7.
Yeah.
In
Well, we
5,
had a
10
high
years, it
diving
could be
board, the-
4.
The
Right.
water was 9 feet deep in the regular pool.
Right.
9.5, 10 feet deep or more.
Now, if we can look at that grant that Millerton got, that the governor put out for 9 million and they got 6.
But
that would be
again,
something that,
you can, it's like in the hospital. I would always, when they were giving me at the foundation, the challenge of raising $2 million for an operating room. We could raise $2 million. IBM would give money, but the CEO would always turn to the docs and say, but once we put it in, it's got to be maintained.
You're sure. It's one thing.
And
to
where's
build,
that gonna
it's
come
another- Yeah.
Well, if you just use a pool, for instance, instead of the
A
lake,
municipal pool, yeah.
right, a municipal pool, let's say Olympic-sized pool, okay, in the middle of that where the pond is now. What you do with the rest of it, I don't know, but if you did that, the maintenance is gonna be a whole lot less.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it'll be half, at least half, if
Now,
not more than
Do we
that.
have many people in on this Zoom? Because I'm going to say something.
No, just Leslie.
We're okay?
Yeah.
Miss Leslie?
Yep.
There may come a time where the town puts that up for sale and has a contractor come in, like a recreation contractor comes in and buys it. You lease it to them and the town makes money off of something they don't incur any costs on.
I'm gonna put in a tennis court facility.
She's sure.
You know, some communities have done that because they just couldn't run them anymore. But I would hate to see that happen.
And pickleball.
I would hate to see that happen.
So
Yeah.
do we have any expenses that we need to talk about? Like, do you have a wish list?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, she
so
has
I did-
expenses.
Matt and I went over some things that, he would like. Oh, on part of my wish list is the money for the windows upstairs in this building.
Where?
But that would be in.
That's not- that's
other
something else.
buildings,
Yeah.
Yeah.
So if we're talking about expenses,
just for-
let me ask you this, on expenses line item 71104, it's park CE. CE is what?
Contractual, that's your,
That's going up 21,000 from budget of 24
Mike, where are you?
CE or park.
Park and Pool CE.
Park improvements.
Yep.
It says
Yes.
park improvements.
Yes.
It's a budget of
Bottom of the
24, an actual 68, and you're dropping it to 63, right? Park improvements, excuse me. Actual to date is 68,000. Budgeted was 47,000, so you were over by 21,000, and you're budgeting 63,000 for 2025 for park improvements.
Don't have.
So you're either lowering your anticipated actual by,
Has that got that, does that park improvements have the sewer repair in there?
No.
Okay.
See,
it's right here.
and I don't have it right here.
You've got 68,000 was your actual to date. You
Um,
had budgeted 47,000 and you're going to 63,000. So concentrating just on the 24,000, you had an actual 68, you had budgeted 47.
Well,
For
in that money,
expenses.
isn't that the money that the
That's
composting? toilet
$21,000
went into?
over
No.
She went over budget in that line item.
for
So
$21,000.
where do we get the money?
It might be the composting
Composting toilet.
toilet.
That we're gonna get the money back.
Yes.
Okay,
Okay,
so,
$47,000 that you're gonna get back.
okay.
so if that was the toilet and that was 21,000, which drove your expenses over by 21,000.
Didn't you take it out of two different places because we paid? I'm saying that so
Why?
that you know that you're gonna see it twice.
But why are you budgeting 65,000 or 63,000 for 2025 in park improvements?
You wanted a shed. I don't
That's
have the
correct.
notes here.
One of the shed.
Yeah, that was $30,000 for a building.
Right.
Okay,
I'm sorry, I don't have your sheet anymore.
I have park improvements at 60. I gave it to you.
I don't have that sheet, sorry, Danielle.
that's the only one I had a question on.
Remember you wrote it down.
Grills take over what we
Yeah.
had now because the grills that are existing are dangerous and they shouldn't be in the park.
Okay,
Okay,
We need a shed.
The building was like.
that's the
30
storage
grand.
shed that Matt wants for the chairs and the tables?
We wanted two sheds. Did I give you the two sheds for that price?
And I don't know, you said one where they could keep all the.
Tables
It
and
might-
chairs and,
Yeah, maybe.
Because Matt wanted some extra space to do things also. The grills. What did you say?
was there anything else?
Picnic benches, chairs, food tables.
Oh, we want to replace so many
Benches.
picnic benches because they're rotting. Those
Okay.
wooden ones are rotting.
Good. Okay,
But we're not
I
asking
have
to
it.
do all of them. We want to do a
back to
couple.
the shed. Where do they store what you wanna store in the shed now? Where,
right in the
I think
building.
you
the
wanted it-
building.
in the
right.
building, and so we don't wanna store it in the building because.
We also, what happens is that sometimes our equipment is stored in our building,
Yeah,
like the
Tractor.
Kubota.
okay,
And so we need a place to make room so that we don't need to do that.
okay. So what building are we talking about?
The
main-
Terlini's building. the big
Oh,
building.
oh, okay, I see.
The big
Oh,
one.
okay, I see now.
So all those
Yeah,
chairs
we
and
don't-
tables and stuff.
Yeah, we don't wanna do that.
Right. So we're gonna try, when Jonathan was here, we were talking about having a little, maybe a cement area and having a shed off the back
Mhm.
that we could just wheel everything down.
So what kind of a shed are you talking about? Like custom made or
No.
store bought? Delivered?
Yeah.
The other question I had was the contractors putting in air conditioning and heating. That's going to have an impact because it's going to be run, especially during the summer. The AC is going to be running all the time, particularly during camp hours. That's going to have an impact on electricity. And I reminded Danielle that we probably didn't build in an increase in the electrical cost. So that's got to be, Lois is going to research to see what the monthly expectations would be and then add that in.
Yeah.
Did we put the
the
money in
big
for Wi-Fi?
electrical
What's
expense
that?
up
Did we
there
put
is
the money in for the
pump.
increase in Wi-Fi?
That runs all the time.
And then the final thing I had, and I spoke to Danielle and I'm still going back in my mind. The toddler program now exists up at the
Yeah.
church. I thought, and I may be wrong, that the toddler program was going to get moved up to the main building up at the rec area, and we weren't going to be renting anymore. But you're not thinking that way, because one of the grants we went after has labeled that building up there now in the Dutchess County government as a senior center.
Well, our grant that we took out,
Right.
we
it's a
called it a
senior.
senior so we could get the money.
You find it.
And we have to have a higher percentage of senior programs than we do any other programs. But the main problem why we can't have the toddler program in that space is because we were supposed to have a division wall that would keep the toddlers separate from everybody else. So I don't want to send my kid to a toddler program that's open to the public and anybody can just walk in. So that wall that was supposed to exist, that we asked for in the original grant, didn't happen because there were other things that we had to do to that building to
Oh.
make the senior program happen.
Okay. We were doing the wall. We were
And
tracking
no,
the
that came in
wall.
at 30,000 or more, or some people even priced it at 60,000.
Yeah.
So it was an
I knew I
alternate
knew you did too.
because we had to do
Here, I found it.
the lights and we had to do the heat and we had to do the new doors and the handicap to make it accessible for seniors. We didn't have to, for the seniors, have that wall. That was a problem.
The toddler
Those
program is
fifties that
staying
need
at
for
mine.
equipment.
Mhm.
Okay.
It's safe there. They can, we
They're used
can
to it.
lock it in. That we're near another program.
Okay.
So that's not going to be, the kids program is going to stay at the
Mhm.
church. Now, that is a limited number of children, correct?
That is correct.
What, you max out at what, 9,
8 a day.
8 a day? It's one person helping you.
Correct.
Okay, so that's going to stay there. And then the building up there is basically going to be camp,
Seniors.
programs, and seniors.
Well, I hope that we can get all kinds of programs going in there.
Correct.
You know, once we get started, we can,
Mhm.
And then the other thing,
Redecorated.
Lois just gave me
art classes, yeah,
um,
not just for seniors, at night, I imagine.
63,300 for park equipment. What is park equipment? What did you mean by that?
I have listed here 4,400 for Matt's wish list, so. um,
Equipment, we're not talking tractors or any of that.
Sign, fencing, shed,
Oh, the
shop
sign,
roof,
oh, yeah, the shop roof.
floodlights, a
Right.
garage door, heater, generator.
If we're gonna make that
No,
senior
I've heard
building,
you. So-
if we're gonna make
Yeah.
that senior building
Got it.
into a
Got it.
place where people can go in an emergency, if they don't have air conditioning or if they don't have heat,
We were already talking about that. That's gonna be. at the
it's gonna
school.
need to, what?
That's gonna be.
It has to be a central location for.
Oh,
So it's probably going to be school.
have they ever done that before? The firehouse or the school?
Well, the firehouse and the
The
school.
committee's in conversation.
Yeah, we're in.
Yeah, they haven't done it before, Danielle, but it is the common location for towns to have the firehouse be the designated place. Uh, So we're gonna, it's just the size of it. It's also larger. It has showers. It has
big
a
generator.
a central location, sort of us coordinating with the village on it, but we, yeah, it is
More room.
in discussion. We haven't formalized that yet.
Yeah, between the gym and the auditorium, it's not a bad place.
So we were looking at a generator for Matt to do work that is off-site. So now we need a smaller generator. If we don't need one for the whole building, then he could use it
And the
like,
generator is, if the power was to go out up there for a period of
that's
time.
originally why we put it in. But he also was saying that, when he power washed and did the pickleball court, he
Did the
could
red
have,
one.
he could have done it with
With an
a
electric.
generator and done it a lot faster. And he's finding that there's different jobs that
Mhm.
he's looked at that he would do the generator.
Oh, they're not that expensive.
Right.
Portable.
Not when you're
generator.
doing it, not that we don't have to do a building yet.
So we're gonna save money on that then. We're gonna take out the big generator and put a portable one.
Yeah.
Okay, for that, okay. How much was the big generator, do you know? Plus or minus.
I think that we were trying to take the number that you took for the generator that was here and we took a couple $1,000s off of that, right? It wasn't 7,000 here or something, and then,
No, the one here was almost 20 grand.
Oh.
and One
Yeah,
at
yeah,
the, one at
the one
the
out
highway
there, yeah.
department is a small one.
Yeah. Well, you could just get a portable one you put gas in.
Which
Right.
is what he would
Which is
use
what-
better, yeah.
Which is what he
Joe
wants, but-
gas.
Right.
Well, no, but
Right,
they,
so we're trying to figure out how much this number is gonna go down. now,
Right.
if From the big one
A
to the
small
portable
generator, How
$200.
much can they be?
1,500,
Right,
$1,800.
say $2,000,
Okay,
Yeah,
So
I think at 2
how
grand,
much
you get a
did you
really
budget for the
good
big
one.
one?
10.
10,
Yeah.
okay, so
so
8,000,
that- yeah.
okay, 8,000 off of that.
Okay, so that roof that he was talking about that he has to fix, that has to be done immediately. That's the roof on the
Immediately.
shop.
Under 24 budget or under 25 budget?
I don't think he's gonna get to it. I think he's
It'll be a
talking about doing a
25 budget.
25, correct? He was talking to Bob about that. That whole section where the concession stand is too,
Yeah.
his shop needs to get done.
Mhm.
That's part of that budget. What did you think of that, the roof to the building? That's fine. That didn't need anything at this point. We just had a couple of shingles that came off and that's fine.
Yeah, he patched that up already, right?
Mhm. The signage, he was talking to you about doing the signage.
He wants a kind of posting sign
Right,
when you drive in, not a informational sign, but more of a
Yeah.
posting sign.
yeah, a little.
He can do that. He can make that.
Right. No, that's the money in the budget for that.
Right.
yeah.
How about projected staff retirement? Is Fred? Who's the grass cutter?
Fred,
Fred, is he coming
Fred.
back or we're not sure yet?
we're not sure yet, but we have a replacement if he
Okay.
needs to be.
Okay.
The Honda generator is 1,200. So.
So 8,800.
Just give it- well,
A little
15.
bit helps.
Damn straight.
That's it.
I don't have any.
I put a whole
Right.
house in my house, I'll give you one.
As I said, this is education.
Yeah.
We're just trying to figure this stuff out.
The extra copy.
I'm good.
We have to talk about anything.
Anything for us that came up that you think you needed to ask the board or anything? We're
Well, I
okay.
didn't know that if we needed to talk about the grant. Like what we talked about today for that.
I just-
Is that something
I think
now?
You're gonna have to talk to Chrissy because you didn't talk to Bondo.
He did not drop the bond off. Performance. He called me, he texted me this morning and said he was going to.
Don't know much about it.
So my concern is if we can coordinate with them, this company, to get the project started, how can we rely on them to complete the project if we do in fact get to start the project?
Well, there,
We don't have the bond?
No, it's coming every day. I said.
Every
I will-
single day
I
it's
will drive
coming.
and get it.
he texted me
So
early this
maybe-
Well, what
morning.
was that document
That's-
the other day that?
Should have been one phone call and they should get the bond.
It's
So
Kim,
there's a
isn't
problem.
it Kim or whatever her name is, that's
Yeah,
texting
that-
that?
That's a big
Liz.
problem.
Every day they say they're gonna bring it and they never do.
And we did
So I
some
looked at the
due-
budget
We did
and
some due diligence on this company, right?
Yeah.
Didn't we? Didn't
we
we?
looked it up.
We looked it up, we did it.
Do you ask for, do they have references? Did anybody talk to reference? Did Lodi talk to references?
Danielle, where do we stand with the county on this issue? Because now
Oh,
we're probably never gonna meet the deadline.
There is an extension, but I didn't want to bring it up to them that there's an extension because he's still claiming that he can finish it by October 31st.
Which is like 10
What?
days, I think,
Wow.
if that,
11 days.
11 days.
Well, it was today, 11
Yeah.
days, and he's willing to work weekends and stuff, so he says.
But
But
he's
there was a stipulation that there was going
Local
to be,
contractors.
well, that's not going to happen, but he never even reached out to the local contractors that we asked him, that I provided to
So
him.
that would mean he'd have to start tomorrow.
Mhm.
I thought we had the document that said that the bond was okay. Joe looked at it. and said
He
it
did
was-
look at it, so they needed to just sign it and bring it here.
We can't let them do anything unless we have it in hand.
Oh, I know, but I'm
Yeah.
just saying that this thing was supposedly all done.
And we have to verify the bond. It can't be a fake thing.
Right.
We'll have to verify it.
So
Whoever's
it's
provide the
not done in a
bond, we
week,
need
do we
to
just
call.
cancel the contract? with
verify.
them
Oh,
and
okay,
Do it
Chrissy.
again?
Did you hear? I didn't realize that had to be verified. You had to call
I
it.
didn't realize it had to be verified.
Well, it's like an insurance policy, right? Bond.
Yes.
So what you would do is pick, it's like these guys,
It can go until the next
the
year.
guys that did the roof,
But when we said October 31st.
you call the
for
insurance
the
company
deadline for
to
the
be
county.
sure that the policy they gave
back
us
from the
is
county
an
said,
actual
you know, we
I would
really
just
don't
call
want
policy.
to
So
Okay.
the
say
bond
that
will
to
have the
people.
name
You
of
got
the
his phone
company.
number
Done
too.
by
That's
December.
good, because I wouldn't have
But
known
you
to do that.
have
Right, you
until
just
November,
call.
and I said, I don't want
And
to,
you
or that I want to
speak
stick
to
with October
whoever, you
31st.
look up, don't give
There's
us phone
somewhere in our
numbers from
contract
them.
that says if they go over
It's,
that date,
the
they have to
surety
pay a certain
company in
amount.
New
Right.
Jersey, you
Well,
would
what if
Google
it doesn't
them,
get
get the
done this
phone
year at
number
all?
and ask for verification.
Well,
of the
well, how
bond
does
and
that
the
leave
amount,
us with
that's
the
all.
county with a
See,
grant?
it's a one phone call, it's pretty simple.
We can go
Right,
for
we
the
just need to get
extension,
it
but that,
first.
I don't know
This
how
is-
long
I
the
know.
extension
This is kind
is
of
Discuss
bizarre.
for.
It's not really
My,
professional.
a more serious question is, if we don't get it done in October, not only where does that put us with the county? Where does that put you with your projected program, both revenue and expenses against this budget? Does it change the budget? Let's say-
There wasn't a lot of money.
Let's say we
available.
dissolve the contract with these guys,
We'll have to put it out to bid
jerk us
again.
around, we go out for bid again, and then we
And
don't
they were the
start until
lowest.
next spring.
They were the lowest.
But that's, you can still go rebid it because they haven't upheld their end of the bargain.
I know, but are they
But,
gonna come in and
okay,
work?
How much more was the second lowest bidder? Do we know?
I have to look.
There were only two of
There's
them,
only two.
and it was well over 200,000.
Yeah, it
Oh.
was a
And this
significant
one was
difference.
Oh,
162.
wow.
Yeah.
Whoa,
160, so we're
Big
talking
difference.
40.
$40,000.
but does that affect your projected programs or revenue at all, or expenses? It'll
We
obviously
shouldn't.
impact your expenses.
No, because we were gonna start slow. The seniors was just gonna be a little bit here and there.
Well, it would have been projected electric cost, which is going to be hundreds. of
And when I
dollars,
talked
so
to-
That's not a big deal.
Yeah, if I had a program, then it would pay for itself. So,
I can't believe a company in this day and age is not jumping on every business. Look at these guys. They were done
So
under what we thought they were going to
still
be.
Promises to get to work? I mean, what's,
I mean, it was very strange. They constantly contacting us. to
Lody's
get the
been
bid,
on
to
top
get
of
the
them. The
bid.
lawyer's been on
Finally,
top
we're
of
like,
them.
yes, you won the bid, and then it just kind of went.
Where are they
then
from?
he had a head injury
I
from
want to say,
White Plains
yeah, White
Um,
Plains, Westchester
for
area.
weeks and months that he couldn't do anything, but it's supposed to be a big outfit. So if you can't do it, there should have been somebody else to fill in for you. And then when it came time for the bond, although they already told me that they were getting the bond ready before his head injury, then there was an issue with the bond company that they had some new people. There is literally a
Oh,
story
it's
for
all
everything.
bullshit, yeah.
Yeah.
So he said to me that something was going to happen. 5 minutes later, I had a message from a secretary telling me a totally different, we had that day off for, what was the last?
Columbus Day.
Columbus Day. He was telling me that they don't take off for Columbus Day. It's like,
Sounds to me like they don't want the job.
That's my feeling. that I
They
think
don't
made a
want it.
mistake
They're
on
looking
it.
for some way to get out.
they're probably low bid and they
Right.
probably are not, yeah, that's
Probably.
probably
I
it.
think that's what it is. I think they
It's
really
too
don't
low.
want the job. They're waiting for us to call them up and
There's
say,
no
forget
profit.
it.
Yeah,
Well, just an FYI for the rest of the board, since we're here, is the second lowest bidder, or the bidder that was a little lower than the guys that we hired to do the roof by 10 grand, called
Yeah.
Chrissy up and gave her a little bit of a hard time. So I called him and spoke to him. And he's from Yorktown. He's a wheeler dealer. But, I said to him, I said, this is what we asked for. It was very specific. And you didn't give us references. You didn't give us insurance. You didn't give us, he says, I've done 100,000 roofs already. He goes, I've done 1,000 municipal roofs. And he was going on and on that you can do this anytime. Well, I verified that. He says, you could have just picked up the phone and asked me for all that stuff. And I said, well, we did ask you.
there
for
was
it
a
in the
deadline
bid."
that they had to have it in by.
Yeah. And I said, you didn't give it to us. We would love to save 10 grand, But really, I would love to hand you but I'm not allowed to, the bid that we accepted. and they were right to the dot. Of course, I almost fainted when Jonathan called me and he said, you need $7,000 worth of plywood. And I says, good. I wish we needed $50,000 worth of plywood because it's in the bid.
Mhm.
And then Joe called the guy, or Jonathan called the guy back, and the guy had to look it up and he goes, oh, yeah, hey, you're right, it's in the bid.
Jonathan said they've been a dream to work with.
Huh?
Jonathan said that they've been a dream to work with.
Yeah,
So do we wanna
they check
cancel
with
these
him
guys?
every day.
So you want to cancel these
Well,
guys?
No, wait a minute. Let's see if we get the bond. Because if we
It's
get the
been 5
bond,
days. We've been waiting for the bond.
no, but let's get, if we get the bond, we could, and then they don't do the job or
We should
get it
check
done
with
in
Joe
time.
first and make sure that that is the case.
If they don't
Joe
want the
and-
job, they're not going to send the bond.
But I'm saying if they don't bring it tomorrow, then they're never gonna bring it, I guess, because it was supposed to be here today, right?
Well, it was supposed to be here
Here
Friday.
2
Friday,
weeks ago.
literally 2 weeks ago.
If the bond comes, it means they want the job. If the bond doesn't come,
Why would
they
have
don't
gone
want the
to
job
Company and already showed us.
because they
The
think they
draft.
lowballed it and didn't think they were going to get it.
And, you know,
I think we could sue them.
It's
we-
happened.
No, you
if
can't.
we cancel the job, can we,
It's
with
not a contract yet.
the
I'll have to-
county's
I'll call them
okay,
tomorrow
start
and ask them.
next spring? I mean, would we still be covered under that grant?
I don't know. I'll have to.
I think this is extenuating circumstances. I can't see where the county wouldn't agree with us.
I mean, I think that I remember when I went, I don't know, a year and a half ago or so for like a follow-up. Gosh, it got dark in here. I realized I'm like, for a follow-up, with them about the next year's CDBG grants. They were saying that we had to use it. I think it's like, as you mentioned now, and they were pretty strict about it because they felt like they gave some runway. So I think we should, reach out to them. I would say now, Danielle, just let them know what's going on. Do you know what I mean?
I've talked to the county about everything. I've kept them up to date on
So
everything.
what was their reaction to it?
Mike, who's kind of like the building inspector for the county guy, he's never seen anything like this before. But the woman that deals with the finance part of it says that we can do an extension, but I don't know how long that extension is, so I can
Do
find
we
out.
have any,
We
do
should know
we
that.
have, did we keep any back and forth with that? Do we have
They got the
paperwork, any
emails.
kind of paperwork?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, they've got the emails and stuff, and Lodi's been contacting, he's got backup.
Yeah.
Leslie,
Yeah.
is this considered, even though it's not, the bond has not been submitted, therefore that would close the contract. Is this considered under contractual agreement or no?
I don't know. I mean, no, you'd have to have consideration. Money would have to exchange hands for the contract to be
So
Uh,
as,
activated.
so as soon as he gives us the bond, then he wanted to bring his equipment. So on their line items of monies that they can get and when they can get it, weeks ago, he wanted to just bring all of his equipment here and just drop it off before we get the bond. And I said, absolutely not.
Joe said absolutely not.
But once he brings the bond, we've already had the insurance, they can get a check for 12,000. Once they bring the mobilization in, that's another 12,000.
Yeah,
Once the
yes,
Yeah.
oh, sure.
Oh, yeah, I
Upfront
checked with the
mobilization,
county.
Definitely.
Okay.
And there's
Soon as they
also
start
a
mobilizing, we can touch
demobilization
that.
also. It's not all in one.
Well, we
So-
can lock the gate, keep their equipment.
You don't even want their equipment on the grounds because then they'll claim something happened to it, we'll get sued. That's why you don't allow.
And, you know,
think
they're
we're-
supposed to bring the stuff. I have trunk or treating there this weekend.
I think we
Okay,
need,
so I think what you need to do is talk to whoever you gotta talk to tomorrow and said, are we getting this bond today or not?
Oh, no, they'll tell me, yes, we'll get it today. He already asked me. He's even said this morning, now who is it that I have to give it to? And I said, put it in the hands of the town clerk. It needs to go in her hands. I called as soon as I talked to him. I called and talked to Kristen and said that we need to put received on it. We need to have a date on whatever documents they give us so that we can keep track of that.
would you, first thing tomorrow, call the county and ask them if we decide not to do this project this year, where do we stand?
Well, you could give them the reason, of course.
Right.
Oh, yeah. I don't
We
understand.
awarded the bid and
We can't be.
The guy
first
had, we had a
people to ask us for a
pre-construction,
bond.
I was at the pre-construction meeting. The guy that came was knowledgeable. He was like, you know,
He knew all the numbers of the documents that he had to hand in and
yeah, he was knowledgeable about everything and he didn't bring anything with him, but he, you know, he yesed us to that.
I just don't want Danielle's programs to be impacted because
Right.
they're digging ditches and they're putting stuff up, or not doing this at all, and we got to go out on bid again.
All right, we'll find out.
All right, thanks, Danielle.
we went to executive
Yep.
session.
Danielle,
Thank you.
Danielle, who do you talk to when you call that place? Who do you?
So I found that Jonathan, who is the guy that you met, he does better when I text or call his cell phone. But then I ask him to follow it up with an email so I can have it in writing, and he doesn't do that.
He doesn't.
Then there is the secretary who is the accounts receivable person, and I get emails from her and phone calls from her at the office.
So is there a owner or a?
He doesn't respond to anything. Lodi's reached out to him and wrote him a letter specifically to only him, and he hasn't responded.
So where are they? White
They're in
Plains, you
White
said.
Plains.
I
And we
wonder if
got
that's where
the,
drive
we
is.
got the number, or we got their name.
Yeah.
They were on the list of the women.
Oh, right,
owned
they're all
business.
women-owned business.
And then when Lodi met them, he goes, well, where's your woman? They said, what? And he goes, well, your woman, because you're of, the women-owned business. He goes, well, she hasn't quite gotten there yet, and we're getting the paperwork ready. And he didn't really know how to answer that at that meeting that you were at.
This sounds interesting.
So, I mean, they were on their list that the county gave us that list.
All right,
You want
Okay,
me to call him?
Well,
tomorrow?
thanks.
Which one? Dad?
Oh, yeah,
I can forward you his cell phone number if you want.
yeah, forward it to me, the names and the cell phone number, and I'll try to call first thing in the morning.
Okay.
And
I mean,
I'll just say.
he'll
town
respond at
council.
7:00 in the morning.
Yeah.
Tell them there'll be a police
Because I
escort.
met him. Because
Yeah.
I met him.
Yeah.
And I say, I met you at the pre-construction meeting.
What's
And,
going on?
yeah. And see if the guy will spill the beans.
Yeah.
And I'm just gonna say, just be upfront with us.
Thank you.
Thanks.
thanks, Danielle.
Thanks, Danielle.
So do we have matters to discuss? We don't really.
Do you have questions on anything that's come up that needs to be adjusted? You're gonna have to adjust it a little bit, right?
Yeah.
So the budget you gave us tonight is obsolete.
Well, we always go through changes.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yes.
So you're okay with that?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So then the
Okay.
next one would be the 28th, right?
That's next Monday, and that's Jonathan and Lisa.
Okay.
And I will update some of the 2024.
And Chrissy, is that the date that we
actual
have
to-date
to
numbers.
approve it
It's in
at the end of that
No,
meeting?
November.
I think it's the
15th.
November meeting.
The November,
Well, the 15th is the drop dead date.
Yes.
November.
so we will have a
Yeah.
first Monday in November, we'll have a budget meeting.
And then I think we have.
Well,
to
what
do a
about
public
next
hearing.
Monday?
Yeah, we have one next
Next
Monday.
Yeah.
Monday.
Lisa and
Right,
Jonathan.
yeah.
Yeah,
And then you have to have a public
Right.
hearing.
Right,
At least 5 days shall elapse between the date of the publication and the date specified for the public hearing.
right.
Okay,
And the
So,
public hearing is held on or before the Thursday immediately following the general election.
and the election's on the 5th.
right.
Yes.
So that
Fifth,
is our
sixth, seventh.
budget. Would that be our normal board meeting?
No, for the following week.
Yeah,
I think the
So
board
we'll
meeting's the
have-
14th.
yeah.
you know what? Stick it on your calendar where we gotta put it out there.
I
So
already
we,
have it on my calendar.
yeah. Let's just-
If I'm having a day like today, I need it on my calendar.
Chrissy, Aaron will post that, right? She can post that.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
All that. I've gotten a little experience with posting. Maybe I can even post it. We'll see.
We do have to put something in the paper.
Yes.
Yeah.
I thought this was good. I mean,
Yeah, no.
that program that Joe brought forward, I think is gonna be really good.
Yeah,
Well, we need that.
Oh, sure you do.
With those new tanks. And they're smaller tanks, so there's less
It's the
liability there.
program that really isn't.
Expensive.
I just wish there was somebody else other than you that had to
Me too.
document all that stuff.
Well, can't
because
you,
I'm
can't you
so
electronically?
overwhelmed.
Well, no, Kathleen can do that, can't
Yeah.
she?
That's what I mean. I was thinking,
Kathleen could do it,
right.
but Kathleen would have to then be able to transfer it into her
Yes.
projected
Yes.
budget
Yeah,
lines.
yes.
As long as the
This way-
computers can speak to
This way
one
Lois
another.
doesn't have to do the work.
No,
Yeah, you don't need any more.
do the computer will this program be able to speak to one another?
I really don't know
See,
much
that's the
about
key.
it.
That's the key.
You would just need like a monthly printout and it would should have the,
Gasoline
Right.
usage and
And
then
then
charge each
every month.
department.
Right, and then she would send it down to Lois and
Yeah.
Lois would then just
Yes.
download it.
Right, like, I mean, they're
I
doing
mean, I
that
don't,
now, right?
I don't see where it's gonna be all that.
Basically by hand.
By hand.
Because
Yeah,
the fob will dictate where it goes, and you
Right.
just print it out
Easier for
and
them.
here you are,
here you are.
you know,
But
right?
I don't have to.
Well, the big thing is the tanks themselves and the
Uh-huh.
modernization of the tanks, and they're downsized.
Mhm.
I mean, that big giant gasoline tank is gonna go away.
So our next meeting is when?
Next
28,
Monday.
Mhm.
Bob,
5:30.
that brings up a good point though. Don't you have to remediate old gas tanks?
Yeah,
Do they have to fill it with sand and all of that kind of
no,
stuff
no,
and take
they're
it
above
away?
ground. So
Above
what they
ground.
do is they clean them.
That's a
They
cost.
don't cut a hole. Well, no, that's it's in the thing, I'm sure that Joe got.
Oh, it is, okay.
Yeah, and then sometimes they use them for culvert,
Oh,
small road
Right,
culverts,
right.
the big tanks, the steel tanks.
okay.
So,
They clean them.
okay, we're good. Leslie, so you're okay for the 28th?
Yep, I'm okay for the 28th.
Okay?
All right.
Have a drink on us.
I'll see you all then.
All right.
And
thanks,
Bob,
Leslie.
I'll connect with you tomorrow morning, first thing on Operation disaster preparedness stuff and getting in touch with Tim Colopy and stuff, just to make sure I coordinate with him.
Fine, you got my email, right?
Yep.
And my,
No, I
okay.
had misunderstood.
Yeah,
the-
I'll call you in the morning. I'll be in touch in the morning. Thanks,
Yeah.
everybody.
Good night. Good night.
Thank you, Leslie. Good night.
Night.